just going to talk a little bit of Crystal Palace, actually. So something that interests Gabby, and I didn't realise much about it until he was telling me. It's Crystal Palace's enhanced aftercare programme for released players. Just to give you a bit of context about what Crystal Palace have done, the Crystal Palace Academy have basically enhanced their wide-ranging care programme for players aged 18 to 23 that are released from the club. So a dedicated player care officer is going to be in contact with all affected players for an extended period of time, supporting them on their journey, whether that's helping them find a new club, an education programme or a job. And this is something that's actually really important and something we talk about quite a lot on talkSPORT, because there are so many young players who are released from academies and get a bit lost. They're out of the system. They've been in a system since they were young kids, and then they're out of it. And it's something you're very passionate about, Gabby.
100%. You know, I was lucky to be offered a professional contract at 18. You know, I joined the academy at 12. And there were some players that joined the academy from 6 years old. You know, the first available to be scouted and brought in. And they were in the academy all the way up to 16, 17, then released. Heartbroken, coming out of the office and in tears with their parents. And then there's nothing there for them afterwards, you know. This is perfect from Crystal Palace. Someone who's going to make sure you go down the right path and help you get another club, not just leave you and you're on your own. Because how many stories have we heard of players that have been released from big clubs and ended up going and making a good career, or coming back and signing for that big club when they're older? So it's a great thing for Crystal Palace to do. I don't know why it's taken so long, but at least they're the first club to do it, and I'm sure every other club will follow.
Yeah, well, it's a high-profile example is West Ham in England midfielder Declan Rice. I remember doing my first interview with him when he was brought up to the first team at West Ham, and he told me a story of when he was released from the Chelsea academy, and he was absolutely distraught. But John Terry got in touch with him, and John Terry basically put him in touch with West Ham. He went to West Ham's academy instead, and the rest is history, if you like. It's important to have at least somebody out there looking after these kids and making sure, you know, whether football is their future career or something else. And
I think a lot of you know, footballers that are in the academies from young, you know, sometimes you're not good enough to make that next step. You know, you might be the best player from 6 till 13, 14, 15, 16. You maybe don't keep improving, and then you don't get the chance to have a career in football. So that's going to be heartbreaking for that kid. So what can they do next? I know a lot of clubs are very good at, whilst you're in the academy, you have to do your schoolwork. You know, you have to, when you become a scholar in the youth team, you have to choose something at college to do. You know, that's what we had to do. You couldn't just do nothing. So they are good in that sense, but when they get to 18 to 23 and they are released, this is the perfect thing for Crystal Palace to be doing, because it's tough out there for these kids. You know, their heart's set on being a footballer, and it's taken away from them. You know, it can be very depressing.
Yeah, and this is an interesting side of it as well, because after the 2019-2020 season, ITV carried out an exclusive survey with footballers who'd been axed from the 92 league clubs that season. 3/4 of more than 100 who replied said they weren't given enough support by the clubs that let them go. Almost 90% of players said that they'd experienced depression or anxiety since being released. And this is an interesting point, because this shouldn't be the main point, but actually if clubs want to help, they're actually helping themselves. You know, there's a lot of, you know, you can pay it forward, but a lot of people want something in return. Well, here's something in return. More than half those players said they would not recommend their former club to other players. Now, there's a reputational thing there, isn't
100%.
there? And Crystal Palace are already, you know, cementing their reputation of a club that looks after players by doing this.
Of course, and just imagine, Faye, that you've got an 18-year-old who's been through the academy with his friends, and then one of them makes it and he gets released, and one of them goes on to be a superstar and you've been released. You know, it's going to be so sad for that player. You know, he's going to be very depressed. So he needs something like this, you know, for them to be like, you know what, don't give up. We're going to find you another club. We're going to get you another club, maybe down the leagues that you're going to go on trial to. Don't give up on your dream. We're going to get you a job which you can do part-time while you're trying to continue with a football career. Not just be left You know, like, leave you to your parents to help you. You know, they're still young kids at 18 that sort of need that help. So for me, it's fantastic from Crystal Palace and their chairman to do that, and I'm sure within the next couple of weeks that every club will follow suit.
I was just going to ask you that, actually, because is it perhaps something you could have a conversation with Aston Villa about, for example, as a former player, to say, this is maybe something, have a look at this model, speak to Steve Parish, see what he's doing. Is this something that you could do at your club?
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, it doesn't have to be me. It can be anyone who's played for Aston Villa, because the young players are going to listen to you. And I think as well, what I was going to say as well is that this is amazing, but the same sort of thing needs to be done for players who are retiring from the game. You know, not all players are going to be playing at the super high level where they're going to earn enough to be able to retire and live off for the rest of their life. You know, some players are going to earn enough that's going to keep them going whilst they're playing. Then when they finish, they need to get a job. They need to find something else to keep them going, to pay their bills. Clubs have got to be better at that. Can you help the players that are getting in their late 20s, early 30s, and speak to them about what you're going to do after you finish? You know, because when I left, and other players I've spoke to that are retired, you're sort of thrown out into the real world and you haven't prepared for it. In your mind, you think, oh, retire from football, I'll just go on holiday. I'll just, you know, relax at home, go to a local cafe, go to the gym. But then after a couple of months, you're like, I need to do something.
Yeah.
You know, you're lost, and that can bring on depression. And if you ask a lot of players that do retire, they're not given that help. And maybe some people might say, you know what, you earn all this money, it's not our job to do this, poor you. But football players are still human beings, you know. You have to keep busy. Even when you do finish football, you have to keep busy to keep your mind active. So I think there should be something that the PFA do, but you don't see enough of it. And if you speak to a lot of footballers that do retire, they do ended up going through depression, maybe blowing their money, maybe not have had the financial advice to use their money wisely to last them for the rest of their life. So there is a lot more that can be done, but this is a start from Crystal Palace.
How much should it be down to the club, or how much should it be down to the PFA?
I think a bit of both, but I think, why not the club? You know, some of these players are playing for your club, doing an amazing job for you. Yes, paid very well, of course, but they're doing a big job for you. And then when you leave and your contract's up, it's like, all right, see you later, close the door on your way out. You know, no, okay, what are you going to do afterwards? You need some help to get into the media. You need some help to get your coaching badges done. You know, when I was playing, there was nothing and no one at the club appointed to do that.
Did you feel like you could go to anybody and ask a question, or did you feel as if there was an element of pride to it and you'd retired and therefore you have to then find your own way rather than be able to knock on a door?
Yeah, I didn't feel that there was that sort of avenue to go back and, you know, ask these questions. But the big thing for me, and I was very lucky, was that my agent, you know, was very hands-on with me. You know, he looked after me for to where to put my finances, the right places. But there's a lot of footballers that have vultures around them who will tell them, invest in this pub, invest in this restaurant, this clothing line, and end up, you know, losing their money.
Almost
finish
exploited.
Football, exactly, exploited, finish football, and the agents are gone. Do you know what I mean? I've been retired 3 years and I've still got the same relationship with my agent, you know, because we're friends. So I think there needs to be a lot more done to prepare players for the real world, because I was in a bubble of like, yeah, I'll retire, I'll go and, you know, travel the world on holiday for the rest of my life. But in reality, when you finish football, it's not like that. You have to keep busy. You need to carry on working, you know, and I feel like clubs should do more for them.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point, because it's not, you know, the key point here is about the academy players who don't have that money behind them that a retired player has as well. But there is an entire player care conversation to be had. And bearing in mind, we talk about it a lot more now, finally. It's more out in the open. So why isn't this being discussed? Why isn't somebody going to the PFA and saying, what are you doing?
You hear a lot of players that they will finish and they will look for media work. They will look to do their coaching badges. But how many players are retiring yearly? How many jobs are out there? How many media jobs are out there on radio, TV? How many coaching jobs are available? You know, I think every season there must be thousands of footballers that are doing their coaching badges, and how many jobs are available. So there's not enough out there for us to go on to do? Maybe whilst we're playing, can the players be advised to do something that you can walk straight into, rather than when you retire, you're like, oh, what do I do now? You know, so especially for the League One, League Two players who are not going to be earning the Premier League wages, the Championship wages, so they haven't got a choice. They need a job when they retire. You know, the mortgage payments to pay. Is there anything to help them whilst they're playing? Okay, you're going to retire at 33, 34. You still got to keep earning for the rest of your life. Why don't you get into something now? Do a course at college to walk straight into. So I think there needs to be more of that done for players.
Yeah, and that's players who are retiring. But to go back to the academy players, if you think you've got, a CV of experience, no matter where in the league you've played, whereas at the top in the Premier League or lower down the leagues, you've still got a back catalogue, a CV to give somebody. These academy players, they don't have that. They don't have that CV. All they've known is being at a club, at an academy. Their goal, they have not reached the goal that they wanted to get. They need to find a new goal, and they need to be supported with that.
And even if it's you get released at 18, 19, maybe you've been in the under 23s, for instance, at Aston Villa, and you've not made that next step up to the first team. Can there be someone at the club who makes sure you find another club? I don't care what league it is in. Find you a trial at a club, help you go and find a course to do, help you find a part-time job while you're still chasing your dream. That's the amount that these clubs have available. The budget that they'd have to put towards that is minimal. You're looking at the Crystal Palace, a dedicated player care officer will be in contact with all affected players. So you're probably talking, maybe 2 or 3 people working for the club to do it, and what it's costing them is minimal, but it's that care, isn't it?
Well, it's important, and it's important for various reasons. It's primarily important for player welfare first and foremost, but actually if you're future-proofing your club in many ways, like you mentioned, 100%. You have a player that somebody might not come, you might not get a big signing later on because of a bad experience. What Crystal Palace have done will be sending shockwaves through all of football. I think all clubs will be having meetings probably Monday morning saying, we're doing exactly the same. I hope they are. Better, it's 2022. Why is it not? I can't believe we've not. I mean, we have spoken about it anecdotally before, but we've not really gone in depth with it. And nobody has actually. It ends up the football kind of overtakes it, doesn't it? Exactly. In the end, and it certainly shouldn't do. It's an interesting conversation going forward, and one that we'll certainly watch with interest.